Welcome to Chats Unmuted, our real-time episodes where you get our unfiltered takes on culture, current events, and all things relationships.
Today, we're going to be talking about how do you know when enough is enough. If you're new here, we want to thank you for joining the family. Hey, Peak Seekers. And if you're coming on back, pull up a chair, listen in, watch all of the things, and join us because it's fun on this side. So my name is Dr. Lara, and I'm your favorite relational psychologist, where you'll find me where mental health, faith, all of the things intersect. And I'm just happy to be here.
And I'm Memi. I'm a relationship coach, and I strongly believe that your relationship can be saved if you want it bad enough.
Period.
You gotta do the work. That's to
So
do
let's
it.
get into this temperature check. On a scale of you need a nap to I'm on fire. How you feeling?
I would say I'm about a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Okay.
So this week was pretty productive. This week was pretty productive for me.
That's good.
Yeah, something about like being at my desk and actually doing work. It just feels invigorating.
Wow. That's all it takes is just to do work?
Who would have thunk it,
Who
right?
would have thought?
No, but I feel really good. But and I also think it's been mainly like marriage pinnacle work. So it's like I'm actually like, oh, this is kind of fun. I actually really like
I
this.
love this.
So like I spent like 7 hours yesterday putting together my coaching site, and I'm just like, oh, I could get used to this
all the time.
Like, yeah, like sign me up. 9 to 5 where? How about you? How are you feeling?
I would say I am sitting comfortably at a sizzle. Like, so I'm not on fire and I'm not burnt out. I'm just in a nice little sizzle and I'm okay. Work is interesting and we'll kind of leave it there. And, but I am well. I'm happy. I have a lot to be grateful for. I'm in a place of gratitude. So it is we're winding down in the year and I'm just really, really grateful. So
Yeah. A lot to be grateful for. Lots to be grateful for.
Definitely.
Especially in a time where a lot of people are going through things. I think at this point, to be able to have food in your fridge is like, thank you, God.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely. Definitely.
I'm good. So, what are you looking forward to this weekend? Like, what you got going on?
Date night.
Double date.
Double date. Double
No, when I say
date.
I'm big press, like press.
Yeah.
Big press. I saw Kev on stage and Tony Baker this year already. So seeing them both together, sign me up.
It's like merging. Perfect. And yeah,
My world.
a good comedy show. So yeah, I'm definitely excited about that.
Yeah.
So
And when was the last time y'all been on a date?
You said what?
When was the last time y'all been on a date?
Not you putting my business out there on the street.
I'm just curious because we gotta live by.
I say not as I do, like I told you. I said this.
We gotta live by example.
And yeah, maybe I'm not leading. So yeah, we are making up for lost time. So yeah, thank you for putting me out there. But yes, we will be getting back on track.
Back on track. Back to monthly date night after this weekend, right?
Back on track.
And I think that's all for me. It's really just the show this weekend and church.
Yeah, and church, absolutely. And okay. So I feel like we can get into this internet chokehold. So this is like a week or two. It's post week or two, but people are still talking about it. And I think for us, it's very, very timely for our demographic and our little subset of the world in the interwebs. So there was a viral clip, and I'm only saying this because this is what she's been coined as, is the cruise ship lady who put up a post about basically recognizing that her husband wasn't in love with her. And then come to find out there was a lot of discourse about him cheating on her and just the really kind of toxic things that were happening prior to them getting married and then even after they're getting married. Sometimes
I think I have to. Yeah, so let me put the clip up and then you won't give us more context on what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of sad.
I would say so.
Sorry, the wrong one.
You mean the world. Oh, yes, I wanna. What you say, babe? What you want? Oh,
So, and just before you, it said the day I realized that my husband didn't love me, I think anymore is what it said.
Yeah.
And without having, there's so many think pieces, so many clips, so many different things that you could probably search in the cruise ship lady and find out. But what I will say, just from some of the pieces that she did, where she spoke on different platforms, she talked about being in a relationship with this man for over 2 years. They met years ago through her business where she used to make dinner plates, and they got together. And she initially did not want a relationship with him. They were just friends. He was super nice and super kind. He helped her move when she had to move really quickly, abruptly, helped her move. She decided to go on a date with him. They kind of fell in love from there. And she
So he
said
was
things
kind
like,
of putting in work.
he was putting in work. Yes, he was absolutely putting in work. She mentioned that he was not her type. So she specifically said that, I had been dealing with my type for so long and that wasn't working. So I said, let me try something that is not my type. She said she was not even in a space where she was wanting to date. So she said, maybe this was God's way of saying, okay, here it is. This might be the man for you. She said, throughout, like during the relationship, things started to become uncovered. She found out that he was actually married. And so she was like, well, was this an ex-wife? She confronts well, not confronts, but she calls the lady, finds out that they were actually still married. And that, yes, so they found out she was still married. They had a conversation. She asks them to leave. He's like, I'm not with her anymore. She cheated on me. The ex-wife says, well, actually, I only cheated on you because you cheated on me. And, so
Okay.
like there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And then even after that, there was, prior to them actually getting married, there was 13 other women in addition to the wife, to the ex-wife.
I'm not laughing
Where,
at her, but that's crazy.
yes, so there was 13 different women that she came across prior to them getting married. She said that she consulted her pastor, and her pastor told her, and I am paraphrasing, her pastor basically said that she can forgive him. And she said, so it also sounds like she's been somebody who's been really who's gone through a lot of traumatic experiences. She said she was raped. And then she says, if I was able to forgive my rapist, who is still in the family, who I still see, then I was like, I can forgive this man. She said, and she said he was very different from other men she had dated. He was nice. He was kind. He took care of her. She's like, I didn't feel taken advantage of, and I didn't want to take advantage of him. So again, it sounded like it was a relationship where it was very different from her, or different from relationships she had already been a part of. And so, some things happened, I guess, at the wedding. There was a clip of that where she shared, and I guess some things happened there as well. But fast forward to the clip that we just showed, and basically for those of you listening, it was just a clip of her singing to her husband, and he really seems uninterested. He is, really standoffish, and he doesn't really seem like he wants to be there. And some more context, she said that even if you look at her eyes, her face was very puffy. She said it was because she had been crying in the room, begging him, like, can we have a good trip? I love cruises. I want you to have a good cruise. I want us to have a good time. But she said that his attention was just on other women. Like
Okay.
his attention was on other women, and, it just was a lot for her. And so at this point, she's no longer with her ex-husband, and I think they were married for approximately like 7 months. So that's just a little bit of context. And there's, like I said, there's
Yeah.
so many different, platforms she's been on to speak, and even on her own TikTok, she shares different things. But there definitely is a history of trauma that she's experienced. This is not somebody who's quote unquote her normal type. Um, and it seems like there was a lot of infidelity throughout the relationship.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely a lot. And it sounds like there's so much in there. But the one that also stood out to me was the if I could forgive my rapist, that I can forgive him.
Yeah.
Because it's like, when you think of the
It's a big, it's drastic.
that's way worse,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I can forgive
I can
that.
forgive that. So I can forgive
Yeah. So it's
minor.
kind of like, yeah. So it kind of asks you like, what kind of standard does that set for someone? If that's how they kind of view it. And not saying forgiveness is wrong. As believers, we believe that you are supposed to forgive.
Yeah.
But I feel like that is kind of a brain warp that has occurred with her. And I don't know if there's like if it's a psychology thing or whatever, but it's kind of like that becomes like your standard, like you're holding everything to that. Like if I can
Yeah.
forgive
So
that,
it's
I
not
can
great.
forgive
So everything under
everything.
there is minimal.
Right. And that's
That's dangerous. It's
that's very, very dangerous. That's very dangerous. And it just kind of boils down to asking yourself like, okay, so how would she even have known when this relationship stopped working? Or
Exactly.
if that things were now starting to become one-sided. So that's
Absolutely.
kind of what, and like you guys will hear us talk about internet chokeholds, and we don't ever bring it up for like salacious talking points. Like this is just not that podcast. We
Yeah.
incorporate current events and things that we are seeing online, and we try to kind of bring like teachable moments out of it, and
Right.
kind of takeaways that can help our listeners or whoever just kind of improve, like
Correct.
how to not do that,
Right.
or how to not find yourself in these type of situations. And
Right.
our heart goes out to her. We keep her in
Mhm.
prayer and keep her
Yeah,
lifted
for
up.
sure.
I pray for her healing. I pray that she's able to come into herself as the
Yeah.
woman that God actually intends for her to be, and not
Absolutely.
kind of who she's being told she should be. But
Correct. Yeah.
but yeah. So I mean, we're being going on. I feel like
Yes.
I tangent.
You said you feel like what?
I kind of went off on a tangent.
Not really. I don't think so.
Okay.
No. And
Thanks.
so I feel like when we think about that, obviously, so we talked about like this big gap of like this is the standard. I don't have, if I get to this point, then to me it sounds like this is the point of danger, whereas everything
Right.
under it was not. And so
Right.
like what
It wasn't sending off alarms. It wasn't
yes,
like,
it wasn't sending off alarms
like,
because it's like not as
yeah.
bad as quote unquote rape.
Right.
When in
Right.
actuality, you're being played with big time. So
Mhm.
um and so how do we even define like when a relationship or what it means for a relationship to serve you?
Yeah. So like, how do you know that you are in something healthy? How do you know you're in
Correct.
something that is beneficial to your life?
Correct.
Um, So certain things that I would suggest people look for is, am I growing?
Yeah.
Like, am I feeling challenged in a healthy way? Because you don't want to feel too comfortable in your relationship where you and your partner are just like letting toxic stuff fly,
Correct.
but you want to feel challenged. Like you want somebody to call you out on your stuff, but in a healthy way, in a way that
Yeah.
shows that there's love there, there's care there,
Yeah.
there's mutual respect there. Um, Peace, I would
Yeah.
say, is another big one. Y'all
Absolutely.
know how I feel about peace. Like
And and
it.
I and I go ahead. Sorry. Please finish.
No, I was just saying, like, I need to feel centered. Like, I need to feel like this person is bringing me calm. It's bringing me, good vibe. And I'm not saying it in a naive way, like it's always going to be like that.
This one.
Absolutely, will not always be like that.
Mhm.
But in large, this person should feel like your teammate, your partner, that they want peace for you. They want you to grow. They want to see you doing well.
Mhm.
So, and I feel like what we saw in that video was, again, we have her side of the story, we have her context, but what we saw was someone who did not really want to have a good time with his partner. Like, she's enjoying herself, she's in a good mood, she's vibing, and he's just like, get away from me. That's not a good feeling.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and just even bringing up just to reiterate, just the peace, because I think that oftentimes people think peace and they think calm. They do think calm a lot of times. They think, but the thing is, peace is not the absence of problems. Like, I just
yeah,
need to make sure that's clear. Like,
yeah,
peace is not the absence of like difficulties and
yeah,
challenges. So
mhm,
every relationship, every marriage, you're going to find challenges. But again, I think the word you used was center. Like, this is my
yeah,
center. This is my, like, okay, when all things are chaotic, this is a place
mhm,
I can come to and find balance. I can
yeah,
find, my center, my grounding. And I think that
yeah,
is important. And I do
yeah,
think that that's important when you're thinking about a relationship actually serving you. And
yeah.
so, go ahead. You want to say something?
I was gonna say, and I think another important word that we want to add in there is when you're talking about someone being that like safe space. I know that's like a real big buzzword, but your partner should be your safe space. They really
Yeah,
should.
for sure.
And is that trust, the safety, and security. That's also
Yeah.
something we talk about a lot. The trust, safety, security. That's also something you would want to feel
Yeah, definitely.
in a relationship.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, like, you want that peace, you want that growth, you want that partnership, but when it's probably not mutual anymore is when you're starting to see wedges, kind of like, and again, we saw a very small snippet of what was going on in their relationship. And we're not pointing the finger to say he was all right or she was all wrong. I mean, she was all right and he was all wrong, but just in the clip you could see the emotional distance.
Yeah,
You can see that it appeared very one-sided.
yeah,
It seemed like she was the one putting in the effort, and he did not. It seemed like he did not want to be bothered. It
at
was like,
all.
don't touch me. It's almost like he was kind of disgusted with her. Like and she did say that he was looking at other women, like he was almost embarrassed of her, and I
Mm,
think that's how it's one sided. Maybe one person is vying and fighting for this
yeah,
relationship when the other
yeah,
person's kind of checked out.
yeah, yeah. That's really good. And I think the one-sided thing is a really like clear way to kind of see if things are becoming if you guys are getting pulled away from each other, if that love
Mhm.
is kind of dissipating. And an example could be um a lot of people talk about like being married single parents, husband
Mhm.
or wife, but most of the time it's the moms. When you're talking about being you're married but you're a single parent, like your husband is
Mhm.
not helping. To me, that also constitutes to being like one-sided. That
Yeah.
creates emotional distance. That creates an atmosphere where you don't feel safe, you don't feel secure.
Yeah.
You feel like you're carrying everything. Or if you're the one that's always planning the date nights or the trips or like you want to feel like there is
Mhm.
duality, that we are
Right.
doing this together, that we both want the same thing.
Right.
If I have to drag you every single time when it's time to sit down, or for my case, when it's time to talk about the finances, right? You have to like drag me to come and have the finance meeting. That
Mhm.
doesn't feel good for the
Yeah.
person that is handling the finances.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's on our case.
And even just to take it a step further, I do think that it's important that just because there's like we need to recognize that there could be more so like incompatibility versus like toxic, because I feel like in this very psychology pop culture, all
Mm.
I'm hearing are words like, "Oh yeah, because you're gaslighting me," or "Oh my gosh, you're love bombing me," and not everything is toxic. You know what I mean? Like, not everything is toxic, and I do feel like we need to make sure that we're talking about, there are instances where it is toxic, like the habitual infidelity, that is toxic, or taking advantage of somebody who has had a very traumatic relationship past, that is toxic. But sometimes it could just be that you're just incompatible and maybe you're really not a good fit and you were literally
Yeah,
trying to make apples out of oranges
yeah, trying to fit a square peg in a round
into
hole.
a round hole.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. And I think that happens like a lot.
of course.
And we talk about the way people, like, the reason why. someone would stay in a situation that's not
Oh yeah.
serving them,
Hmm.
or they notice that emotional distance, they notice that feelings are not as mutual as they were in the beginning. Like,
Hmm.
there's so many reasons people stay, and a lot of that has to do with how are you either you're scared of being alone, your
Hmm.
family is pressuring you, you are you've been abstinent, you're celibate because you're a believer and you're ready to settle down and you're ready to
And when we say
start the
settle
next.
down, you're trying to have sex.
Yeah, and it does
Let me
happen.
get
I hate
some.
to say it, but it do
Trying to
be
get some. And
happening.
so you're just like, let me forego some of the things I'm
Let me
seeing.
let me go and jump in because it's
Uh-huh.
time for me to get my ting ting wet, get my ting ting.
Wow. Okay.
We said I didn't say that, y'all. Scratch that from the record. But
Right.
it's true. We see
It's
it.
very true. Uh-huh.
We just telling y'all what we see,
Yeah, for
what we
sure.
hear about.
For
So
sure.
is it, and then what's the biggest one? That cultural that
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
the 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 African girls can relate
The
to
immigrant
that
girls,
part.
I'm sure, can relate. Yeah.
The immigrant girls at large, because we
Yeah.
know the Indian girls and it's real.
It's a big
We've
thing.
seen it. We've heard about it. People are willing to stay in things that just do not serve them in the name of being a wife. And like
Mm-hmm.
I think in our culture, especially like we're raised like I know, I know that I was raised from a very young age on what my expectation was. I knew that at a certain age it was expected that I was married. At a certain age it was expected that I had a child. There was no real ifs, ands, or buts. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you need to be married by here. Full
Mm-hmm.
stop.
Yeah.
And and I will say that that is, I don't think our parents realize how dangerous that is,
Oh right.
how damaging that can be to
Mm-hmm.
young women, because you're kind of just like, oh, husband, whatever it takes. It
Mm-hmm.
don't matter if he don't really like what I like. It don't matter
Yeah.
if we have completely different views on finances and our lives. We don't have any visions that are similar. We don't have any goals that are similar. Hey, it's a husband. Sign me up. It's
Yeah.
like you don't notice until after the fact. And then and one of the things that people talk about a lot is the divorce rate. Like, oh, divorce is so high. And what I always say, I'm not against divorce because a lot of people should not have been married in the first place. So that that that's the main reason why I'm like I'm always gonna accept divorce as an option for people to. I'm not gonna say divorce is terrible. Nobody should get divorced, because a lot of people should have just never got married. And it's like these are the reasons that push people into marriage. And so, like this young lady we're talking about.
Yeah. And I think it really does come down to like you shouldn't have got married, but then also how do you see yourself? Like,
Mhm.
we go back to this, the red alarm was going off when it came to like things like rape, but the habitual infidelity wasn't a concern. So it brings the question like, you know, what about your self-worth doesn't allow for you to think that you deserve
Mhm.
better than that?
Mhm.
Like what is the standard that's being set here,
Mhm.
for you to be treated that way? And I think that that is something that I'm very, very curious about, and like what I would want some of our, maybe single and or dating, listeners to think about is, the standard that you set is going to lay the foundation for how others treat you. Like
Yeah.
just period, and what you're willing to accept, that is what people will test. Because if I think about my kids, right? I think about my children and like what I tell them not to do and what I tell them to do. Like when I tell Zion to do something, she wants to test the boundaries around that every single time.
Mhm.
And if she feels like she can get away with it, she won't push it even further and push it even further and push it even further. But the minute I set a hard boundary and a hard no, she knows she cannot cross that line. And I think that is very, very applicable in this. Like people will always test limits, not because they're trying to be even malicious at times, but it's just like, how far can I go? But the minute you
Yeah.
put a hard boundary, again, we talk about boundaries, the areas and parameters in which you feel safe. The minute somebody has access to cross that, you've given them the key, and so I do think it's super important that we understand, that you are the person who sets the standard.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, what do you say to someone who doesn't even know how to start that journey of like self-worth? Like, let's say they do have so much trauma. They do have um like a stack of failed relationships behind them, abuse and all these other things, and they just don't really know if they're worthy, right? Because we have two ends of the spectrum, I feel, these days. We talk about women that have these super high standards. Like, I want a
Mhm.
man, I want a man that's 6'3", making X
Yeah.
amount of money, treats me like a queen. We talk about
Hmm.
princess treatment on here.
Hmm.
You have those girls, and then you have the girls that are, like, for instance, I don't want to I'm not using her as an example of low self-worth, but just an example of Cardi B, like, pregnant right now, and then there's 3 other women that are also pregnant at the same time. So it's like, what are you accepting? And it's like, I can't look at her and be like, I would never look at Cardi B and be like, oh, she has low self-value or low self-love or low self-worth. But it's like, if that is the environment that you're accepting for yourself, it leads me to wonder, it leads me to have those questions. It leads me to kind of wonder, like, okay, like, how do you really see yourself? Do you really think you are that girl? Because if you really thought that, how could you find yourself in why would you find yourself in a scenario like that? And again, not blaming her. I'm very against victim blaming or whatever, but it just leads me to question and wonder. So
Yeah.
it's like, for the girl that doesn't even realize that her self-worth is low, or the man, like,
Hmm.
how do they even go about that?
Yeah. And I mean, again, I think it is. I think that you think about when the bar is set pretty low. I always use the analogy, like when I think about like kids who want, like when they're like thinking about what they want to be when they grow up, right? And a lot of times you are a product of your environment. So
Yeah.
if you have not seen a lot attained,
Mhm.
your measure is going to be a lot shorter than somebody else's who's maybe seen and been exposed to more, right? So I
Mhm.
do believe that everybody's standard of self worth and their definition of self worth is going to be different, right? Because she talks about, yeah, he treated me like, he was kind. He bought me
Mhm.
stuff. He took care. So there were things that maybe she had not been used to, right? But I do believe that people should not be treated like there's certain things when it comes to your safety, your peace that I feel like are just across the board. And
Yeah.
once those things and once we start making nuances for them and we start making excuses for them, it's a question of your self worth. So it's like,
Mhm.
are you like on a normal day, would you want to be cheated on
Yeah.
a normal day? Like without any,
No, everybody's answer should be no.
everybody's answer should be no, right?
Oh
But
god.
that's what I'm saying. But the minute we start now making nuances and we start
Mhm.
making like caveats and things like that, is
Yeah.
when we start opening the door for a lower and lower and lower self worth. Literally, you're starting at 100, but then now you start making these caveats. And again, like I said, all of our numbers might be different, right? So I might
Mhm.
consider myself having high self worth and I'm at a 90, and you're like,
Right.
I'm at 100 and you're 90. Like, what is those 10 points off? But we're still
Yeah.
considering high value and high self worth. But the thing
Mhm.
is, the minute you continue to make nuances is the minute your number goes down in my
You're
book.
winding it down. That's really I've never actually thought about it like that, but that's really good. But like, 'cause every time you're like, well, he only did it one time. It's like,
Yeah.
ding, or
Ding.
it's
Right.
like, yeah, or it's like he does it respectfully, like to the
Right.
point where, or he only does it out of town, like ding, ding. So
Right.
it's like you eat away at that.
And it's like you feel like you're not deserving of this, right? Like when you don't feel like you're deserving of peace, you will continue to accept chaos. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
it is just standard.
yeah,
You will
yeah.
continue to accept chaos. You'll continue to say, okay, well, it's not that bad. Oh, okay, it's not the you'll like these continued like passes, right? And that is it's not realistic if you are somebody who wants to attract high
Mhm.
quality man or woman, but then also feel like you are a high quality man or woman.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is like, there's certain in order to make sure that you're keeping your self-worth high or your self-value high, there's certain things or feelings that you shouldn't waver on. Like the things
Correct.
we talked about earlier. So like
Yeah.
your peace, your security, your safety, your the trust you have.
Correct.
Those things you should not be compromising on those things. And so when we
Mhm.
talk about like other standards like height or money, like
Yeah.
that is that is different. We're not talking about physical attributes
Yeah.
or monetary attributes. We're talking about like actual character. Like
Character.
what makes the person the person.
Mm-hmm.
So
Agreed.
yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you start
And I
compromising that is where
yeah,
things get
that
dark.
just I feel like it just lets us know that unfortunately, she did share a little bit of it, but it just lets you know that this woman has probably had a couple blows and a couple of hits to her self love and her self worth, which allowed her to kind of stay in this really unhealthy relationship to begin with, and who knows if like the straw that broke the camel's back was because it was viral or because it went viral, because a lot of
Mm.
times, you know, most of us are just everyday people, right? Our relationships are not on display. Our relationships aren't here for the world to see. And so you might take a couple hits that you might normally wouldn't have if your relationship wasn't exposed to the world. And so is it possible that, her self-love and her self-worth is even maybe lower, but because too many people have think pieces and they're telling her, girl, you better leave, you better run for the hills, that she's finally standing up. And I'm happy that she is, and I really genuinely pray she kind of gets the healing she needs and finds that
Yeah.
self-love before she even attempts, because who knows who's an opportunist at this time.
She can just swear them in off for a little bit, get herself back together, stay away from her, please.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Um,
I just
yeah,
because you can't tell me before this clip there weren't signs. Like
mm,
you just can't.
yeah,
There were signs. There were
yeah.
there were red flags.
I mean, I think we talk about it all the time. Like, there's always red flags from day
Yeah,
one. Like,
yeah,
you start to see the little things if that person is not the right person.
right.
So to me, and like we were talking about earlier, like how do you know it's a red flag? Like we had a whole episode on red flags and green flags. Go check it out. It's
Yes,
one of our
ma'am.
first ones. We got to
Yeah,
throw back a little bit, but it's up there. But it's like I think the best way to summarize all of the red flags is your peace in jeopardy. If
yeah,
your peace that about your centeredness, your sense of um your sense of fulfillment,
yeah,
like that thing that just makes you feel when that starts getting rocky, then you need to open your eyes and you need to ask yourself, like, okay, so what's going on here? Like, what is that red flag? What is he doing or what is she doing how is she treating me that's making me feel off balance or off
yeah,
center?
yeah, for
So,
sure.
yeah,
And
I
I
want
think
to
that
do
I think that even we talked about this in that episode that we did on red flags, that a lot of times some of our red flags might not be the same, right? But I do think that there are those universal red flags where
yeah,
these are signs that this is likely not producing healthy fruit in your relationship. And, when you think about like withdrawal, you think about constant criticism, maybe constantly like never having anything constructive to say, but it's always like you're putting the person down. You're really inconsistent. Your follow through is poor. You're not really invested in the relationship. So you like really lack effort and you're disrespectful. Like the cheating and disrespect can show up in so many different ways, right? It could show up in cheating. It could show up in like you're not following through with your word. It can be verbal.
someone, yeah, like your
Yeah,
tone.
absolutely. So there's just so many common ones, and I'm sure, you guys can put in the chat like other red flags that come up, but we're not even talking about the, oh, he doesn't pay my bills, da da da. We're talking about like, again, going back to the character of a person, going
Yeah.
back to the character of a person, but, I think it's also important. Like, why do you feel like people minimize red flags?
I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier. I think people minimize it because they want this thing to work.
Yeah.
Like they want to get to the end goal. They
Yeah.
want to have the marriage that they see their friends have, or
Yeah.
that Ava and Russell have, whatever, like
Hmm.
whatever their North Star is. But I feel like people push themselves through red flags for a variety of
For
reasons,
sure.
and it could be, like I said, it could be the pressure from family. It could be, just being lonely, right? Some people are just
Yeah.
tired of being alone and they just
Yeah.
don't want to be by themselves. Like they just want a partner by any means necessary.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is survival. Sometimes people need to be with someone in order to get their bills paid or to be able to eat. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Sometimes it is survival. So I feel like there's so many reasons why people push through the red flags. But I think our message today is really that it's you, and I don't know, don't cancel me off, but you're better off by yourself. In most scenarios, you're better off in a situation being unpartnered and finding community in other ways. If it is loneliness, if it is needing help, I would always recommend finding good friends, finding a good therapist, finding other ways to be fulfilled versus an unhealthy relationship. Because that does
Absolutely.
so much more damage to you long term than being by yourself can.
Correct.
And
Agreed.
that is
Yeah.
my
I mean, 110% agree, because the thing is, talking about just even that dwindling number, like the minute you accept it, like you start tolerating, you know,
yeah,
crappy behavior, it becomes your new normal. You know what I'm saying? Like you open the door and you're saying, okay, I'm accepting this time. I'm accepting it this time. It becomes
mhm,
normal. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like people say abusers don't just become abusers overnight. It is
yeah. The
it
build
is
up,
a buildup and it's
yeah,
repetition. So,
yeah,
we just want to remind you, like you're saying, oh, I'm going to stick through it. I'm going to look the other way when it comes to my red flags because I love the person. Oh, we have so much history. Oh, I'm hoping things will get better. But just remember that what you tolerate now will become the new normal. It just is, and yes, I do believe wholeheartedly that people can change, right? Like people
yeah,
can, when they are intentional and purposeful and they really want to do the work, people
mhm,
are able to change. But to me, how do you know that the change is real? Like what,
yeah.
to me, that is like what is the nail that says this person is actually doing the work, this person actually wants to be better, and this person really wants to take this relationship to the next level in a healthy way.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's definitely being about it and not talking about it. Like you can tell me you're gonna change all day long. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna do better. I promise.
Mm,
I'm not gonna
talk.
change no more. And but I'm not seeing no action. So
Right.
I definitely say, and not the one time action, the two time, but you want to see consistent change
Yeah.
over a time, over a certain amount of time. Whatever
Yeah.
the amount of time is, that's up to you. But you definitely want to see it in multiple times. I
Yeah.
would say. So it's the patterns that you want to
Yeah.
be looking for, not just the promises, not just the talking or the empty words or the text,
Mhm.
or even the grand gestures. Because a lot of times abusers will come
Yeah.
back, buy you shopping, take you on trips. Those are grand gestures, right? And that goes back to the physical, to the physical attributes, the things that you can do with your hand. But we're talking about the character work. So
Yeah.
when you used to cuss me out every time we got in a fight. We've been in 3 or 4 pieces of conflict. You were able to manage your tone. You were able to keep
Yeah.
yourself together. You want to see that consistently over time.
Consistency.
You
Right.
want to see that communication is improving, and not automatically overnight perfection, but you want to see the effort. You want to see that,
Yeah.
oh, this person is actually trying. And
Yeah.
not in because sometimes we can be delusional. We can say,
That
"Oh my god,
Lulu.
Lulu, oh my god, it's better." But that's where the self-worth comes in. Because you're checking with yourself and you're asking
Yeah.
yourself, like, okay, is this something that is this actually am I actually seeing real change, or
Yeah.
am I seeing what I want to believe? Am I lying to myself?
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I think that, for me, I think it's important that you recognize that habits are not formed overnight. Habits
Mhm.
require a lot of unlearning. Like I always think about, if you're thinking about changing a habit, think about being at -10, having to get back to 0, and then build up to 10. Like, that's a lot. You're unlearning something to just get back to the starting point to
Yeah.
now be consistent to now get to 10. So
Yeah.
that takes 20 steps.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
It's
Just to get to 10. And
yeah.
so for me, it's important that we are able to give grace, right? I think it's one of the hallmarks of being a believer that you give grace and you extend grace, because for the most part, people are wanting to make an effort, right? But even in that regard, you don't want to be blind, right? They constantly get to 0, but then they going back, they going negative. They never making no strides forward. They just keep going back negative. Like,
-4. And they're like,
right.
oh,
I mean, it takes a lot to overwrite
Yeah.
something and rewrite something, but also like, don't just be dumb now.
Yeah.
Don't
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 play.
don't just be dumb now. And I'm trying to say that as in layman terms as possible, because sometimes people need to like get knocked on the head a couple times, and I don't mean
Yeah.
that. I don't mean that for real. Like,
You can ask yourself, but
keep
we
your hands
talking
to
about fitness.
yourself, but sometimes people need to like, their eyes need to be open because you're extending grace, and it's just like, okay, this is not healthy. Like this,
Yeah.
it's not healthy, and it doesn't look like it's going to become healthy at any point.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we this episode, it's about her, but I think it just bodes the bigger conversation about what you're willing to accept, your self-worth, recognizing that, you know, if you are in a relationship, is this relationship serving you? Is this relationship uh, feeding you in all aspects of your life? And then, are you in a space where you are protecting your self worth? Is that
Yeah.
something that's a priority for you? Because it is important for it to be to for you to be an individual and then also be a partner. Your self worth needs to be intact.
Absolutely. And especially if you want to go have kids and you want your kids to have a good example to look up to. And I'll also say one of another takeaway is ignoring the red flags.
Hmm.
Ignoring the red flag, and it goes hand in hand with the self-worth, right? Because if your self-worth not where it needs to be, it's very hard to recognize those red flags.
Hmm.
And then also, if you are believing in your partner to change or improve, that you're looking for that change to be consistent and not just a one-time, one-hit a quitter, but you're looking for it to be sustained change, like Laura said, from -10 to 10. And you want to see the journey unfold and the effort. So,
Yeah. So our heart goes out to the cruise ship lady. We hope that you find love after you do your own self work, um,
yeah.
love yourself. And, to all of our peak seekers out there, we want to make sure that you recognize that you are you, and you deserve a partner who's going to respect that
Yeah,
at all times.
you deserve a healthy love. You deserve a love that respects your being, like exactly who you are, the good and the bad, that person's willing to accept it and challenge you, like we talked about earlier. So
For sure, for sure. So we want to thank you guys for rocking us with a little virtual episode. Check out our episode that is going to be dropping next week on for Chats from the Peak, and we will see you soon. Bye, guys.
bye.